Oh, we're getting closer. Yes, there's the holidays on the normal calendar, and then there's the NFL draft for NFL freaky fans that just love it. The best time of year, and we continue on defending the kingdom, looking at the draft with Veach's Guys We Trust. And, of course, it's brought to you by Ticketmaster, who you can have your best friends all year long. Mahomes keeps it on an RPO at the 5, gets a lead block. He goes into the end zone near side. Touchdown, Kansas City. Hi, everyone. I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, along with senior team reporter Matt McMullen. And the T-shirts were very popular. I think I still have mine somewhere. In Veach We Trust.
Yeah.
And even wore it around town a little bit, and people were like, yeah, that's pretty cool. But in this episode, we're going to go with In Veach's Guys We Trust. And we will feature Senior Director of Player Personnel Mike Bradway as a special guest. And it's just awesome to see the comprehensive nature of Brett Veach's entire staff and how they work together. It's not a coincidence that Chiefs pretty much have been hitting a lot of home runs, or if not, extra base hits in these drafts.
Particularly late in the draft, and that's so hard to do. It seems like an obvious thing that every front office should be able to know who the best players are going to be in round 5, 6, and 7, but the truth is the Chiefs put in extra work on these guys, and it's not just the area scouts that are looking at them. It's Brett Veach and Mike Bradway and the people at the very top of the food chain, Coach Reed. They're watching guys that are going to be drafted on day 3 and maybe not get drafted at all because they're putting in the extra hours, the extra time just to make sure we get an impact player late in the draft. And you see the fruits of that when Isaiah Pacheco is the leading rusher in a Super Bowl that you win, or you get a guy like Jalen Watson who's picking off Trevor Lawrence and causing incompletions against Joe Burrow. Like, these things happen because of the work these guys put in over the summer, during the season, even trying to find a few impact players that maybe other teams are overlooking. And we're so fortunate we have these guys on our side.
Coach Reed, I just think if he wasn't coaching, would be like the biggest draft nerd of all time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because he just loves it. Like, he loves football. He loves colleges, every college. He loves the game so much that, yes, he would have like the giant book, and he would know the undrafted free agent from, I don't know, Slippery Rock. But he's
what did Kelvin Sampson say during the Final Four? Said Sasquatch State or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll know the
Coach would know.
From
Sasquatch State. He would know it. So before we hear from Mike Bradway, what do you have for Around the World?
Just 3 today because we're in a hurry. It's draft week is nearly upon us, so just 3 today. We'll get through this. So I went to a cool speakeasy with Ellie over the weekend, and she just wanted to kind of go out and check this place out. And I'm like, okay. So we sit down, and I end up talking football with the guy that's next to us, and his name was JP. JP checks out our stuff.
Such a romantic
Great meeting
night.
you, JP. Yeah, it was.
Very romantic night.
You know, and Ellie kind of knows this is going to happen, and we go out in public somehow, some way. I'm just going to end up talking football with somebody.
And she's okay with it. Like, we're going to have a night out at a speakeasy, and oh, hey, let's in the 5th round.
Exactly. So anyway, shout out to you, JP. It was great meeting you. Chris is listening from St. George, Utah.
Yeah.
You ever been there?
Oh, I have not. But I was just talking about that area of Utah. In fact, I spoke at a group. It was in Carrollton, Missouri. Your granddad would have loved this.
Oh, yeah.
And so Carroll County, Missouri, and someone came up. They were at this event from southern Utah, and they were from the St. George area. So this was just last night. This is weird.
Wow.
But Dixie, Utah Tech is down in there. Also,
Utah Tech.
Utah Tech. Southern Utah is down in there too. So a couple universities are in that Dixie range, Dixie, Utah range. It was Dixie State at one time. It was a power JUCO, but then it became, I think, Utah Tech.
Okay. Very cool. More you know. Is it near like all the national parks and all that?
It's near Las Vegas. Actually.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a national park.
Well,
is Las Vegas a national park?
In some ways it might be.
Yeah.
Then lastly, shout out to Oreo the dog. So someone wrote in for their dog. We talked about my dog, Pip, on last week's episode.
No better dog than Pip.
Well, Oreo is making a strong
son's
case.
Dog, Lola, but
shout out to Lola as well.
Tied for first.
But Oreo the dog, I don't know Oreo's owner, but they got Oreo in 2019, mere months before the Chiefs went on to win the Super Bowl for the first time in 50 years, and Oreo has been by their side through all the Super Bowl craziness. So Oreo is a good luck charm. So shout out to you, Oreo. Thank you.
We don't know the breed of Oreo.
Don't know much about Oreo, except that they're lucky.
Is Oreo a mangy mutt rescue All-American dog like Pip?
We need more information. Let us know more about Oreo.
Come on.
Yeah. But regardless, Oreo has been a good luck charm, and I'll take all the luck that we can get.
And I would not put out there to send us your favorite dog or it would crash the site, because here come all the Defending Kingdom dogs from around the world, although that would be fun.
It's a new segment.
What is really fun is we get the chance to have Mike Bradway. And Mike is closing in on 20 years in the National Football League. His official title with the Chiefs is Senior Director of Player Personnel. But his dad is awesome. He's a consultant for the Panthers. But he was in our personnel department when I first came into the league. I had such awesome conversations with him. His dad's Terry, was a former GM of the Jets, has been around the league for a long time. And you'll hear it as we introduce Mike, but Mike's fashioned his own career. And Mike's brilliance is just a testimony to the depth and comprehensive nature of Brett Veach's staff. Now, last year, if you want to dig it out of the archives, you'll find us talking about the scouts, but it's not just the scouts. It's Chris Shea. It's dealing with the cap. It's working with this pro personnel, player personnel, all working together with the college scouts, with the coaches. I'm not sure I fully appreciate how good they are and how awesome they work together.
It's so easy to take them for granted. I mean, these people are here every day. They're on the road all the time. They're working crazy hours. They spend more time with their coworkers here in the front office than they do with their own families most of the time. And it's all about striving to get back to the Super Bowl and to win it every single year. And again, I mean, we're just so fortunate to have these people working in our building who are the best at what they do. And you can see why other teams want to hire away our people, like the Titans go get Mike Borgonzi and the Bears go get Ryan Poles. Years ago, the Colts come and get Chris Ballard. I mean, this is going to keep happening for a long time because we have the
Panthers
best people
get
in the
Brad
league.
Tillis.
Exactly,
That's
yeah.
four teams in the league that have our guys.
It's a lot of teams coming to the Chiefs and saying, we want that guy. And just imagine the brain trust here. I mean, the different perspectives and viewpoints and expertise. It's just really incredible. And to have Brett kind of leading the whole group, but it's also the fact that he's willing to listen to opposing viewpoints. He wants to hear what they have to say, and he's involved in every single step of the process. It's not just, a certain couple people, they handle this area and no one else looks at it. It's a comprehensive thing, and it's a really just an incredible team, and obviously the football team's success is a testament to what these guys, the hours they put in and day out.
And in the NFL calendar, and the coaches work insane hours. They work insane hours.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But there are gaps. They get times. Now, coach may not take it, but he makes sure everybody gets out of the building of that coaching staff. So there's gaps and times they can get away. Sometimes a 2-week period or even longer. Brett Veach's guys don't. And these runs to the Super Bowl, the fact that we've had 7 straight AFC championship appearances, and to be in all the Super Bowls we've been in, 5 Super Bowls in the last 6 years, is really taxing on Brett Veach's guys. Because he sent me twice, they're grinding the day after parades. They're in there early in the morning looking, because they have to get ready for the Combine. They've been to the Senior Bowl, they've been to East-West Shrine, but right after the Super Bowl is the Combine. And where the rest of the leagues had scouting has kind of maybe taken a breath, these dudes have had no time to exhale unless it's July and the only time where there's a plant shutdown. That's the only time these guys get.
When we go to St. Joe, they basically have no time off until rookie minicamp the next year.
It's
like
stupid.
Right when that wraps up, because there's a break between rookie minicamp and OTAs, kinda.
Kinda.
But for the most part, like, you're jumping into training camp. If you're one of the area scouts or you're in the draft evaluation process, you're sent out all over the country. You're leaving your family most likely to go just watch guys for months and months. But if you're here in the building, you're at camp, and then the season starts. You're here all season long, obviously. Hopefully we go to the Super Bowl like we had the last 3 years. Hopefully we win it. And then immediately you're grinding on draft stuff all through that. Free agency. Draft happens. You have to get all the UDFAs in here. You have rookie minicamp. And then you might have a day or two.
Maybe.
Like Brett talked about how a couple years ago, his first day off since training camp, he went to the F1 race after rookie minicamp was over. And he's like, I have not had one day off. And, there's a reason they're in these jobs. They're built differently, and they're able to do it. They love it, and they enjoy it, and they're incredible at it. But it's like a different breed. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Their families have to be understanding they live for late June and early July when the NFL shuts down, right? And there's a reason guys, go recharge your batteries. Mike Bradway's brilliant, and we get the blessing to talk to him on this edition of Defending the Kingdom. A special moment in DTK, Defending the Kingdom history, because it's the first time we've had two Blue Valley North Mustangs on the set at the same time. Honestly, it's a treat. This episode's entitled In Veach's Guys We Trust. And Mike Bradway is with us, the Senior Director of Player Personnel for the Chiefs. And Mike, let me say this. Congratulations on an incredible career to this point. You're zeroing in on 2 decades.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
10 years with the Eagles and 8 years with us. Your dad was awesome. In my first years in the league, we had the best talks. He is such a great dude. But you fashioned your own career. So congratulations.
I appreciate that, Mitch. Yeah, I mean, that's some of the finest memories growing up were listening to you and going to Arrowhead in the late 90s. Just growing up around the kingdom, and I feel very blessed to be here.
Well, your dad's a savant, and you are too. We're zeroing in on the 2025 draft. Again, it's imminent. But, like Coach will tell me, he goes, every year's different, man. Every year's different as a team. But I've learned, your dad started this, every year is different in the draft. So 2025, when you look at it from 30,000 feet, what do you see?
Yeah, I think you're right. Every draft is different. Has its strengths, its weaknesses. I think when you look at this one in particular, I don't think you're going to see 6 quarterbacks go in the top 12. I think that was a unique year. This year, I think you can really focus on the lines. I think there's some depth at D-line, O-line. I think there's a good running back class. I think the tight ends are deep. But from our standpoint, even the positions that may be weaker, I think we look at it as a positive. I think there's pockets within each of those positions where there's some value, whether that's day 2, day 3. There's some good corner depth. But we think where we're picking with the 3 picks in top 66, 4 in the top 95, there's some really good depth on day 2 where there's an opportunity, there's flexibility there to whether it's stay pat, take 4 players, or move up or down. I think there's a lot of flexibility with what we have.
And for you guys, for fans and for a lot of kind of casual draft watchers, the interest in this begins with the combine. But obviously for you and your group, it begins way before that. Walk us through the process of how you start learning about these players, kind of creating your board and leading to draft day.
Yeah, so I think the reality is that our scouts have been covering these guys for 2-3 years. So we've known about, especially these guys at the top. We've just been continually to get information and learn about these guys. But it can, really for this draft, it starts in the summer where our guys are evaluating, the top 150 players, and then from the fall, it's the school visits, it's the character building, and then the board starts to materialize probably in December when our scouts are in for the meetings, and at that point, I think it's all getting guys in the right kind of clumps, on the board, the right pockets, and going from there, learning more about, the character piece, the medical piece, the testing, and that's kind of where guys separate themselves. But it's a process, they're each part of the process. The board's changing, and the one thing you learn is you got to be adaptable.
You've alluded to this, but having 4 picks in the top 100 is pretty juicy. But how much or how realistic is it for us to expect to get a day 1 starter somewhere in those top 4 selections?
Yeah, I think anytime you're, day 1, day 2 picks, I think you got to go in thinking those guys will at some point in their rookie year, especially the first round picks are a little different. You expect those guys to probably play a little more, have a significant role right away. But all those guys, at some point in their rookie year should be steady starters for you. I think, obviously blessed to have a pretty good roster here without a lot of true holes. But again, all those guys we're taking, and even, day 3, we want all those guys to have roles right away. They might not be starting roles, but, those guys, they need to be significant, contributors early. So that's kind of how we view it.
When it comes to finding...
Again, talking with Mike Bradway, I just want to let everybody know our Senior Director of Player Personnel. It's just exciting to have you here.
Well, I just wanted to ask, when it comes to finding these prospects that will come in here and hopefully contribute, I feel like with a lot of teams, there's the front office and the coaching staff, and they operate almost separately. Not really the case here, though. There seems to be so much collaboration between the front office and the coaching staff. Can you speak to that a little bit, how they're involved in the draft process?
Yeah, I think that's what makes kind of our, process unique. Now, it helps we've been together for so long, so we know exactly what Spags is looking for, what Nags is looking for, what Coach likes in a player, not just on the field, talent-wise, but also the makeup, So I think just the collaboration, I know that word gets thrown out a lot, but I mean, the communication we have with our staff, I mean, it is every single day. It is constant. It is, there's no secrets. Like, we are truly one team together. And I think that's the best way to do it. I think we're not always going to see things eye to eye, but hey, let's talk about it. Let's get in the draft room and say, what do you see? What do we see? These guys kind of get into the process late. Obviously,
they're busy.
Playing as long as we have, So, our scouts have been watching these guys for years. So it's kind of trying to get all on the same page. And what we've learned is that there could be some players that are just maybe better fit elsewhere, and that's fine. Like, we're going to find guys that are Chiefs, that fit the profile on the field, and then, what we're looking for in the locker room.
Matt and I talked about last week as kind of a primer. There's always seemed like a run, right? You talked about the quarterbacks last year, or the wide receiver run in 22, I remember. But I want to ask you about making a decision whether to trade up, which Bradway has done a lot, trade down, or stick. What goes into that process of deciding we're going or we're moving down?
Yeah, I think in the instances where we've been, ready to pick, and we've identified a guy that we really like, and he's clearly sticks out on the board like a sore thumb. Like, I think Veach has proven that the only way to know that you're going to get the guy is to be aggressive. And sometimes you may not have leverage in a trade in terms of value, but the most important thing is getting the guy that we're convicted on, that we are, passionate about, that we like. And we'd rather, give up a little bit to get a guy that we really like, as opposed to maybe wait, 10 to 12 picks, sweat it out, and, potentially lose out on a guy. But then, the trade down option, when we haven't done it much here, obviously, with Brett. But, just for example, if we're picking at the end of the rounds, if you have, there's 5 guys you have, there's 15 picks away, you have 5 guys that are graded equally, then maybe you just kind of let it, play out. And if they're still there where you're picking, like, maybe you move back a little bit and, get some more, a pick or two.
And a willing trade partner. I mean, the scouts have told me, you guys walk into the combine and the other guys, walk away from you. Like, we've been so successful. I don't say that arrogantly, but you got to have a partner in this.
You do. It takes 2 to tango. And I think, that's why we use, like this week and, previous weeks, just to call around the league with our contacts and just kind of get a feel for, hey, would you be interested in moving up, down? Like, what are your kind of, general thoughts on where you guys might go? And then as the draft plays out, we all have such good contacts in the league, and, we all have kind of the same trade charts, so it's not, it's no one's, just dominating trades consistently. You always feel, if you get the player, trading up, you get the player, you don't, really worry about what you give up.
What's the energy like in the draft room, though, when you see a guy like Trent McDuffie kind of sliding down the board, maybe didn't think he'd be there, and you have a chance to go up and get him? Yeah. Is it just electric that's a guy that maybe you didn't think you'd have a chance to get, and he's going to be a Chief?
I think that year taught us that, we probably should, do work on, everybody that we think is probably going to go in the top 10, 15, just to be sure, just because that was obviously a pleasant surprise. But, there's always a handful of guys where you're like, well, these guys are, they're top 15, and then they start to fall a little bit. And then if they get into a, particular range, that's where you kind of pounce. And those are the conversations that we've had, that we will have. Like, if this player falls to 22, 23, 24, should we make a big move for him?
3 picks in the 7th round as it stands right now. Now, we have learned, Matt and I, over the years, especially with Brett and you and the rest of the crew, is the 7th round, pay attention. That's where you get Isaiah Pacheco, Najee Johnson, Jalen Watson. But then the undrafted free agent, craziness. But I'm looking here, Carson Steele, Nico Remigio, Jack Cochran, Caliendo. Those guys are all right there. What about that dynamic? Mm-hmm. Day 3, attacking the 7th round, and then the New York Stock Exchange opens when the draft ends, and the phones start going crazy. Yeah,
specifically about the late rounds. The good thing about the way we do our process, those guys we take it in the 7th round, we've done a lot of work on those guys. We've watched, even Brett, we've watched tape on those guys, extensively. Our coaches are aware of them. We've had countless reports on them. So, those are guys that, we are probably, we're probably in the 4th, 5th round that just, fell for whatever reason. And we kind of identified the kind of guys that we want to take shots on. Mm-hmm. I think typically you try to take shots on guys that maybe their careers didn't go as, whether it's production, injury, maybe there were a couple schools, but They have the traits. They have the passion for the game. Like, those are the kind of guys you'd take a shot on. And specifically about free agency, yeah, it's crazy, but we have a very, detailed process to, each scout's going to have a position. The communication's great in the room, with Chris Shea, just kind of managing everything, and just constant dialogue. That's the one thing we stress to everybody, like, just over communicate, because there's so much coming at you, so many numbers, and, there's going to be a handful of guys that go undrafted that we really like. Those guys, we're going to be aggressive going after them. And I think it's a credit to our personnel staff, our scouts, that we found guys, in a Super Bowl caliber team. To have some undrafted free agents make a team, it's not easy, but it's a credit to, I think, our staff and also the players themselves.
And what's it like when you have multiple picks in one round, like in the 7th round, having 3 picks, particularly the 3rd round? You're picking at the very beginning of the 3rd round, and those picks are close together. What's the draft room like when you have, all right, here's our selection, and we're on the clock again in 5 minutes?
Yeah, so we'll, after the draft, after round 1, we'll get together and we'll basically reset the board, and then I know we got a long way to go in round 2. But, as those guys start getting, picked off, like as we get closer to the end of the 2nd round, we'll have a handful of names that, we're really interested in. And I think we'll be, hey, let's take this guy first. And based off our intel and based off our knowledge, maybe this guy's got a better chance of being there, top of 3. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's always, you gotta be ready.
You're going to have from 133 to 226. I could see Brett filling in that gap, but
yeah,
what are you going to do in that gap? Because there's going to be a lot of asteroids flying.
Yeah, it's a little strange, with the not having round, picks in 5 and 6, but you almost got to be prepared that if we do, just to be able to be ready for those guys. And I think this first year we've had Mr. Relevant. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because Ryan Suckup years and years ago.
Yeah,
in what 2010 or 9 or something. I don't know, but been a long time.
Yeah. It's funny, we've gone through the board, and be like, man, this guy would be a good Mr. Relevant, pick. There's a handful of these guys that we've talked about that, would fit that mold, But yeah, the days are long, the unfortunate thing is you love some of these players. You do so much work on these guys, and, there's just guys that you'd love to have on your team, and, there is some luck involved, and it's you only right now you might only get 8 of them. It's just the reality of it.
Before we let you go, because Matt and I are up above you on 3, 3rd floor of the building. Well, the draft room is like a flurry of activity. You've got somebody, you want them, you can't go up and get them, and then they fly off the board. How do you handle that? Because we don't handle it great. If we got a guy, we're like, oh no.
There's a collective groan, and then we might have to go pace in the hallway a little bit, maybe get a quick snack or something, But then you gotta repivot, you gotta get back in it, and that's why with every selection it's plan A, plan B, plan C. Expect the unexpected, and there's been times we've been on the clock ready to make a pick, and the guy goes right before us. So we're like. You might only have a few minutes to pick, but that's why we set the board the way we do and just kind of let it fall to us.
Man, that's awesome. What a treat. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, guys.
Busy time, but Mike Bradway, our Senior Director of Player Personnel, and just brilliant. His dad was awesome. Your kids are even involved in this if you want to check their draft board. But anyway, thanks for being with us, Mike.
Thanks,
Go
guys. It's been great.
Thanks. Great stuff there from Mike Bradway. And again, a great example of the brilliance of Brett Veach's guys.
Absolutely. And again, those guys don't get as much credit. Brett is always the first one to say that he wants like the people that work with him to get as much credit as he does. And obviously he's kind of the figurehead. He's the general manager and he's making ultimate decisions. But I just love the collaboration of that group. And again, Brett would be the first to say that they deserve so much credit for all the success that we've had. It's not just one person. It's the whole team and the whole group. And again, we're very lucky to have them all here in Kansas City.
And the respect they have for each other is, again, dynamic. We'll close it out this way, but I'm really interested. We know that Brett likes to move up. We've seen him do it, but there's a chance the Chiefs Kingdom has to be ready to move down. And if there's a draft where people have said, hey, this is a draft to move down at your 31, this would be the one. We just heard Mike talk about it. There is seemingly a sweet spot from that late first rounds to maybe the beginning of the 4th. But with the Chiefs having those 4 picks between 31 and 95, seems to be a really good strategic position to either build equity to move or to find starters.
And I really think just the way the Chiefs attacked free agency this year, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but I think this year maybe more than many others, we truly can just take the best players available, and that's the position that you want to be in. And Brett Veach had his pre-draft press conference earlier today, actually, and he said that they have between 12 to 14 players that have the hard, fast first-round grades. And sure, if one of those guys falls into the 20 range, they could be aggressive and move up. And we've seen them do that before with players like Trent McDuffie and Xavier Worthy last year. But he said there's also maybe more players than normal who are in that secondary wave where it's late first round, early second round. They have a lot of players kind of with similar grades in that area. And that's a good position to be in if you're the Chiefs, because if someone else really wants to trade into the first round and the guys that you have high grades on are all gone, you can just move back and acquire more picks, and you're going to get a player that maybe you thought is the same caliber as a player you would have taken at 31. Or you stand pat, and you're going to get a good player there anyway. So it's a really good spot for the Chiefs to be in. If you're more interested in all the stuff Brett said, he talked for 40 minutes. It's going to be on the Chiefs YouTube page here. Really interesting stuff. Brett is great because if you listen, he will tell you what you're curious about. He's not playing games. He'll tell you, hey, I think OL, DL, running back, corner, and receiver are the strengths of this draft, and we'll probably take those positions. And it's okay, we'll pay attention to those spots then.
One final thing before we close, and I'm fascinated by this because of the changing landscape in college sports. I think we're going to do a whole DTK on this subject, and that is with the movement in college sports, all the transfers, mostly moving up to NIL. But I'm just curious what the 6th, 7th rounds look like and what undrafted free agency will look like, not just for the Chiefs, but all 32 teams. Because I get the sense we're in a kind of a revolutionary time of the NFL and the personnel coming into this league.
The landscape's totally different now, and it's different for a couple of reasons. If you look at some players that will be taken later in the draft, even some guys taken high in the draft, what's really strange is they'll have 5 years of college experience, and they've played at 3 or 4 different schools. And I think that kind of makes things difficult on evaluators, because if a guy wasn't in the same place the entire time, how did he grow? How did he improve from year to year? And some players can do it even though they've moved around, but it's definitely harder, I think, if you're not in the same place and with the same coaching staff. Also, the ages of players are going to be different. So you're not going to find many juniors who are coming out and going to be taken in the 5th or 6th round, because they can likely make more money just staying in college or by transferring. So I think what you're going to see over the years with your later round picks and your UDFAs is prospects who are 24, 25 years old with a lot of experience, which is a benefit. It has me thinking of guys like Swayze Bozeman. They can come in right away and play on special teams, and they have experience playing a lot of football. But there's also less time to develop, and that's the benefit of having guys like Xavier Worthy and Kingsley Suamataia early in the draft last year. Those guys are both 20, 21 years old. Their runway is very long, but if you're already 24, 25 years old, less time to develop. So put some stress on the coaching staff and put some stress in the front office to find the players who might be older and you think can help you right away.
But the top end of that is the window to play in this league. And
It's
everybody
short.
talks about then 30 years old, things start to really get weird. And I mean, Bo Nix is a 26-year-old rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mahomes won the Super Bowl at 24. Think about that.
Think about that. And then the receiver, who's the Broncos receiver, who's the kid at Utah, who's 27 years old as a rookie.
Yeah.
So that was somewhat COVID, but this now becomes non-COVID, and it becomes a dynamic. We're going to do a whole episode on this, maybe a couple. We'll let the draft kind of smoke out here, then we'll look at our picks and evaluate our roster. But soon after that, I think we're going to jump into this because I think fans don't think about it, and I think it's going to change this league dramatically. So, all right, we're headed for the draft. And, of course, you can follow us on our platforms. We're going to keep you updated. Matt and I are digging in, baby. But one of the things we have confidence in is not only in Brett Veach do we trust, in Veach's guys we trust.